These are questions 22 and 23 from the Unit 3 review. For each function, find the vertex, make a table, and graph the function. So, 22 and 23 I've done separately because they're in vertex form, which is different than standard form for questions 24 and 25. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure we know where our vertex is. So we go back and let's just remind ourselves that vertex form says y equals a times x minus h plus k. So when we look at this problem, my a is 1, not something that I need right now. X minus h, so that means this 2 is my h, minus 1. Well, in the original form for vertex form, it says plus a number, so we're going to say plus a negative 1. So h is 2, k is a negative 1. So my vertex is 2, negative 1. I'm going to use that to make the center of my table. So I'm going to make a really simple table. I'm going to put positive 2 on this side and negative 1 on this side. And then I'm going to get my calculator out. And I'm going to go back to this original problem up here, the original function that you were given. I'm going to go to y equals. If there's anything in your calculator, clear that out. And we're going to type in that y equals parentheses x minus 2, close parentheses, squared, minus 1. We're going to type it in exactly like we see it on our paper. We're going to use the X, let me show you where it's at, the X, T, theta, N button. That's the button we use to put an X into our function in y equals. And then we just want to look at the table. To look at the table, we go second graph, and it gives us the table. We said the vertex was at 2, negative 1. So I'm going to scroll down here and look. At 2, it is in fact negative 1. So I'm going to go 2 smaller than that, 1 and 0. And I'm going to go 2 bigger than that, 3 and 4. So let's go smaller first. Let's do 1 and 0 first. So I've got 1 and 0. At positive 1, my y is 0. And at 0, my y is positive 3. Now let's go the other way. And there's our vertex again. Let's do 3 and 4. At 3, my y is 0, and at 4, my y is 3. You should see the numbers repeat. If the numbers don't make a pattern like this, then somewhere you went wrong in typing your problem into that y equals, and you need to go back and double check what you typed into y equals. Now we're going to take these ordered pairs, this table, and we're going to graph this particular function. We're going to start at the top. It says don't go left or right, go up 3. So 1, 2, 3. The next point says go over 1, go to the right one, but then don't go anywhere else because that's a 0. My vertex says go over 1, 2 spaces and go to the negative side 1 space, so negative 1. The next point says go over 1, 2, 3 spaces to the right, and then don't go up or down, stay right there on the x-axis. And the last point says go over 4 spaces and go up 1, 2, 3 spaces. And you should be able to see that parabola shape take form, and then take just a second and as smoothly as you can draw that graph. So that's question 22. Question 23. Remember, this is in vertex form, and vertex form was y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So I'm going to take this formula and I'm going to rewrite it to fit the original layout. I may have to make some changes if I don't have the right minus signs and plus signs. So I've got y equals negative 2 times x. There's a plus sign. My original function says that it's minus h. Well, if I have a plus sign, that means I can make double negatives. So minus 3, minus a negative 3, squared, and a positive 4. Well, it's supposed to say positive 4, so that gets to stay the same. So then I can go identify. My h is negative 3, my k is positive 4, so my vertex is negative 3, positive 4. And we're going to use that to make our table in the calculator. So I'm going to divide this. I'm going to put -3 on the x side. I'm going to put +4 on the y side. And then I'm going to grab my calculator. And I'm going to go back to the original equation. I'm not going to go to the equation that I rewrote. That function, what if I mess that function up? Let's go back to the original function and type that in our calculator. So -2 times x plus 3, close your parentheses and square it, plus 4. And then we just want to look at the table, so we're going to go second table. And there's some really big numbers in there, so I might have done something wrong right there. So let's go back and look at what this was supposed to be. Well, I did do something wrong. I wrote -2, and then I left out a minus, or the plus sign between the x and the 3. So I'm going to clear that whole thing out and type it in again. -2 times x plus 3. Get that plus sign in there. We're going to close the parentheses and square it, and then we're going to add 4. Use what you know. You know that really big numbers seem unreasonable when we're learning to graph something on a little tiny graph like this one right here. We had numbers that were in the 3 and 400s. That's not going to fit on our graph. So we need to go back and double check. So, whoops, I got an extra plus sign in there. Let's clear that out. So let's make sure it matches this time. -2, -2, x plus 3, x plus 3. It's all squared, and then we added a 4. So let's look at the table. There we go. That makes more sense. So we go to -3 on the table. We're going to do the two numbers that are smaller than -3. Numbers that are smaller than -3 are -4 and -5. And two numbers bigger than -3 are -2 and -1. So at -4 in the x column, we're at a +2 in the y column. And at -5 in the x column, we're at a -4 in the y column. And then we go to the other side. -2 in the x column gives us a +2 in the y. And -2 in the x gives us a -4 in the y. So we have that pattern. This is our vertex. These two numbers match these two numbers. So we should be able to easily make a parabola. So let's graph these 4 points. We're going to go to the left 5, and then we're going to go down 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our first point. Then we're going to go to the left 4 and up 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And then we're going to go to the left 3 and up 4. To the left 2 and up 2. And our last point is to go to the left once and to go down 4 times. Now, this is correct, and we know this is correct because our A tells us that this should be a parabola that's turned upside down. So we're going to take a second and we're going to just as smoothly as we can make the two sides of our parabola. And there's the graph for number 23.